Zachary Butcher is likely to be the next into the 1,000 win club driving-wise. The talented young horseman has had many highlights in the sport, including driving Sky Major to be the one and only three-time winner of the Harness Jewels. Let's find out more about him on and off the track in this edition of One on One. Zachary, probably appropriate, was sitting at the breakfast bar close to where you love to be in the kitchen.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite places in the house. Here and on the couch watching Netflix most of the time.
What's your go-to? Like if you have guests, what would you cook for them?
Well, usually I overdo it with the guest side of things. It's never a small get-together. There's usually 15 or 20 of us around here, and it's out there on the barbie, kicking back in here, drinking beers, playing a bit of poker with the boys. But me go-to, could be anything. Probably steak. Yeah, whole steak though. You've got to do it whole rather than cooking them all separately. So big scotch on the rotisserie, or maybe a big rolled pork, but that seems to keep everyone smiling.
Yeah, well, this is a harness racing show, not cooking with Zach, so I suppose we better talk about how you make your money and how you get your steak, I suppose. And as a young fella, growing up with the success that your grandfather had, and obviously your father too, was it always going to be harness racing? Were you always wanting to be around the horses, or was it like, you know what, I don't really need to be doing this?
A bit of both ways, I think. I used to love going down in the mornings and giving Dad a hand, and I hated work, but I loved driving. Right. The hard work, picking up poos and things like that wasn't my go-to. I'd rather play sport than do that, but whenever Dad got me on a horse, the big smile on the face before I went to school. So I guess early days, that's what got me right into it. He gave me a drive at the trials, and he said he won't go back now, Zach. He had that need for speed. Sure enough, he was right. Left that gate, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, and it was the speed? It was the exhilaration?
Yeah, 100%. I vaguely remember the horse, but it did have a bit of gate speed, and I drew the outside of the gate at Cambridge Trials and just went swoosh on by, and I was like, you! It was pretty exciting, and like I said, I haven't looked back from there.
What do you remember of those early years and your dad being so successful? And obviously your grandfather, your late grandfather, John, he trained over 700 winners and had a string of good horses, some of which we'll touch on. But what are your earliest memories of going to the track and watching them?
Probably at home was always jumping on a horse, pop train countizer. So me and Shane would hop on him bareback from the cow shed where we washed him down back to the barn, and that was our morning routine before school. So at the farm, that was my probably earliest memory. And races, Jeff Small and Dad. That's when I really started going, when Dad had a lot of success there with Jeff, and those days were pretty awesome. The crowds were a lot bigger then, and there was a bit of excitement around the place. So I used to love going. Dad would pick me up early from school. I always got out early and would be on the motorway to Alexandra Park, and he was always getting a couple of winners each night, so it was worth watching. Yeah,
that'd be right about the time of El Sue, like when he was flying, getting those couple of Auckland Cups and getting that Inter Dominion series that really was probably the last time Alexandra Park had a really big crowd.
I remember that day perfectly. I watched it in the winner's circle there. Huge buzz. I remember looking back up at the crowd, and at top level, I don't think I've seen anyone there for the last 5 or 6 years, and that was full. El Sue come back to the winner's circle, and it was a standing ovation. So to be a part of that in a close way with Dad driving him and that, it was awesome. Jeff pulled me over the fence and gave me a big hug. So I remember that night really well, and those are the moments we live for in racing.
Yeah, look, and not an emotional guy either, G Small at all. So that was pretty special. And I remember also a big banner that a couple of your dad's mates had with El Sue on it.
Yeah.
It was homemade quite clearly.
They did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the sort of spirit and I suppose enthusiasm that draws people in, doesn't it?
Well, that's what racing needs. I think everyone loves that side of it when there's a good horse like that and it gets a crowd going, and to see those boys jump on the track, pretty sure they got booted off straight after that. But like I said, that was a night I'll never forget.
What have you made of your dad's career? And we'll get to driving against him now, but he's in the top 4 of all time with over 2,500 wins, and he's likely to be the next to 3,000. Him and Blair Orange will probably be in a bit of a race. That's if he continues on, and he's had a few injuries, but It must make you immensely proud, some of his achievements, and obviously getting a cup with Jeff Small as well with changeover. Really capped off a remarkable career, and he's gone on with it since.
Yeah, I actually told him not long ago that he'd just tipped over the edge. Right. I regret saying that. He's come back, and I think he's still driving as good as he ever has. You know, a lot of it comes down to horse stock, and finding, you know, really good horse stock's hard to come by these days. So maybe in a sense it looks like you're not driving as well, but I can tell you now he's sharper than he's ever been. So yeah, to be a part of his career, like I said, I was old enough to see his best times. Don't get me wrong, you know, I'm picking early days. Pop had a few very nice horses for him to drive, and you know, he had a lot of winners. So yeah, it's always good to watch. Always very proud. I'll always tell him that. But you know more than anyone, we like to poke a bit of the shit as well.
Oh, absolutely. And he gives not 1 inch out there,
not at all.
regardless of who you are, let alone if you're his son. I've seen it pre and post race, and it's always quite entertaining.
Well, yeah, a lot of drivers will say he's one of the hardest to drive against because of his attitude. He can be, how would you say it?
Ruthless?
Yeah, ruthless. We'll go with the nice one with ruthless. And he's done the same things to me. I've been out there on horses, and he's just attacked the hell out of me, and we've run second, last and last.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Dad.
Yeah. Just a reminder to you that he's still the boss.
Well, he said you could have handed, and I said you could have sat parked.
Uncle Philip was a very good horseman himself, and I think he got close to 700 driving wins too, and never short of a loving having a yarn and a bit of advice, I'm sure.
Yeah, Phil was great. You know, some of the best advice I've ever had has been from Phil, and even driving-wise, he very good teacher. He's taught a lot of young guys, and they've gone on to do really good jobs in the game. So, you know, he took a bit of time off overseas where he travelled away, and I think had he stayed, he would have been, you know, right up there in the 1,000 Club too. So he had other enjoyments outside of racing, which, you know, he'll tell you he liked to travel and that. But as a horseman, yeah, he's as good as you'll come across.
Yeah, he loves his golf too. Don't ever take him on. Don't mate. Especially with his handicap, he's pretty handy at getting that to where it needs to be.
Oh, 100%.
Hey, just back to school, what was it like for you, and how keen were you to get to the stable, and what was your first job?
To be fair, I actually really enjoyed school, more for my mates, not so much for the educational side of things. I would have stayed till the end of 7th form, but actually Phil was the one who gave me the advice. He said, what for? He said, you're doing nothing there, you're learning nothing, you're wasting time, you know, you should be out working, making a living, and get your name out there in the driving game. So I think it was the end of 6th form, I got told you either stay and work hard at school or you leave and work hard elsewhere. So after the end of that year, I started with Dad, and yeah, he kept me busy.
Yeah, I bet he did. There would have been no let up either. There would have been, mate, you need to learn the hard way, because he would have learnt the hard way because he was in partnership with your grandfather for so long.
Yeah, and Pop was very old school. I think our family in general is very old school, and I've let myself down a few times, a couple of late nights in town when I just turned 18 or 19, and I was supposed to have the truck loaded up, and I was still sleeping when we were supposed to be leaving, so I got taught pretty quick, a few slaps on the wrist, and brought me right.
Yep, 300 odd winners as a junior. It was a pretty big start, and it all started with Clonmel, August of 2008. Yeah,
I was very lucky. I had a couple of earlier drives, exempt drives. I was actually at the beach with my mates for New Year's, and Dad said, I can get you a drive down in Taranaki. So we went down there, had 2, and then the next year I started my juniors, which was a good start. You know, it was the first drive as a junior, lucky enough to get a winner. You know, I was just happy to be out there, but to win it was something pretty special, and kicked on from there.
All right, so how long were you with your dad, and when did the opportunity to move come about?
I couldn't tell you the exact time. I reckon I would have been with Dad 2 years, because he got me hooked up with Peter Scaife and started driving a little bit for Peter, and I think that's, you know, probably what got me out there early days. And I'd helped Barry and Scotty out a couple of school holidays earlier on, and you know, Scotty messaged me and said, would you be keen to come up and give it a crack up here? And at the time it was just for junior drives. You know, I went up there just hoping to make the junior champs, learn a little bit, get away from Dad. You know, you've got to learn outside of the family, I think. And yeah, it must have been after 2 or 3 years, and went and started with Barry and Scotty then.
Well, you got some nice winners early on, and the first horse, and possibly the fastest horse you were saying that you've ever driven, Little Wee Maxim. That was about 2012, 13, somewhere around there. He was just a dude.
Absolute champion, that horse. I loved him. He had a great attitude. Again, one of the quickest horses I've driven, and Yeah, he was pretty cool to get on early days here. He won a Victorian Derby, which was pretty awesome to be a part of, and yeah, I've just been lucky.
Yeah, look, and he was our Maxim over there, of course, and he beat Sky Major in one of those big race wins. What was it like as a young fella getting the opportunity for Barry Purdon, and I'll talk more about him shortly, but to do it in Australia as well, because at such a young age, it doesn't happen very often.
I really enjoyed winning big races over there. It's a different kettle of fish, different driving styles, so to adapt to it can be quite nerve-wracking. So when you're winning them, it makes it pretty awesome, but you're not winning them unless you have the horse stock, so I was very lucky to have that when I was over there.
Yeah, some of those horses we'll talk about very shortly. The race that most people want to win and most people want to drive, and you got an early chance in that too, with a horse that I suppose set you and Barry up as a partnership in Pembroke Benny. He was your first driver in the Cup in 2012. What was that like? Because the crowd on New Zealand Cup Day is unique. It's as big as we have, as we well know, but to have that opportunity, when Barry could still have driven the horse himself, and there were others that could have driven the horse too, that was a big tick, wasn't it?
Yeah, I always say it, lucky to be in the seat sometimes, and you just hope that you can go out there and do the right job, but anyone that has their first drive in the Cup, I'll always say to them it'll be the best experience you ever have. Over that back straight when the national anthem comes on, and I was that nervous, like you're sitting there just trying to take in deep breaths and calm the heart rate down a wee bit, but I don't think, especially the first time, you'll never experience anything like that again.
All right, you've had 7 or 8 drives in it now, and your best was a second on Jack's Legend behind, well, the Flying Lazarus. It was going to be pretty hard to beat him on either of his Cup win days, but still a special moment to be able to be placed in that race. And does it make you hungrier to try and win one?
100%. Still, of all races in Australasia, that's the one I want to win. It took Dad a long time to win it, and you know there's guys that have won 4 or 5 of them, and it's a lot of it's luck having the right horse. So if I can get the right horse and the right one, just need to win one. I've got my whole career to do it, but if I can win one, I'll be a happy man.
Yeah, special last year too, because your brother Benjamin and obviously your father Benjamin driving BD Joe and your dad on Kango, to have the 3 of yous out there. What was Mum like, Wanda, watching that race, and have you talked to her about that? Because I know she's not a good watcher of the races, is she?
No, we tried to actually get her down for the day, and she said there was no chance.
No chance.
No chance. And I actually haven't asked her whether she even watched it or she watched the replay of it. But yeah, I think she does get a little bit nervous, but you know, deep down she loves it. She loves seeing us out there competing, and there was no love lost, that's for sure. I was doing my best to beat them, and I think I did beat both of them. Yeah. It was a nice.
You're about 6, but you did beat them home, so I suppose that was a claim to fame. Yeah, there's a story I remember reading about your mum, and I think it was when Elsu won the Inter-Dominion. She was out the back of the stand. She couldn't even watch it. So
did not watch the race.
Yeah. Hey, just back to your grandfather, and you talked a lot about your family and what it means and the old school nature of it. What are some of the lessons that he taught you? And it was a really tough time for your family when you lost him, but his contribution to the Butcher dynasty is nothing short of remarkable.
He, true champion of a man, Pop. I think he kept us all pretty grounded, pretty level-headed. That was his biggest thing was, you know, no matter how much success you have, you got to stay humble with it. So he was always a quietly spoken man, and you know, he'd always give us a boot up the butt if we got a bit ahead of ourselves. Probably one of those times was when I stood up in the Cup when I beat Dad in the premiership. Yeah, he was not a happy man.
Yeah, how did that conversation go?
I was actually in the wash bay the next day at work, and listen here, boy, don't you ever do that again. He said, I'll give you a boot up.
What inspired you to do such a thing?
Well, Dad actually come up with it. He said, we'll do that. Win, lose or draw, you know, or whoever wins has to stand up in the cart. So even if I was on that horse and I'd beaten Dad in the premiership and run last, I still had to do it. And I thought, well, you're going to look like a right twat.
Yeah.
Lucky I won it.
Yeah, and it's not an easy thing. Well, it made the national news for a start, so it probably got the sport a bit of exposure that it maybe not great exposure, but any exposure's good exposure, Zachary.
Dead right.
That's not easy to do. Had you practiced it?
Yeah, I did actually. I don't know if Barry knows, but I was practicing it at Barry's.
Right.
A couple of his ones. There was actually one that took off one day when I did it. Everything was safe though, we got through it, but get the balance and act right and we're away.
Yeah. Yeah, not ideal. Right, let's talk a bit more about this fella Purdon. Barry, master horseman, leading trainer of all time numerically, obviously alongside his father Roy, and 19, I think, premierships out of 20 years at one stage. That's incredible that you had the opportunity to work with him. What are some of the things you gleaned from him?
Oh, the list could go on. Loved working at Barry's. I think I was there close to 10 years when I went back and had a look, and enjoyed every part of it. Learned a lot off Barry for the care of a horse and looking after them, even working them, not so much along the brushing them and making them feel good, but just working them and understanding to not overwork a horse. I think he's one of the best at that. They're always hitting the line strong, like anything. If you're out for a run and you're not hitting that last K very good, it breaks your heart a wee bit. And I think that's where Barry did so well, is his horses go to the races and, they don't last 3 months, they last a year if he wants them to. They don't have to keep going out and spelling. So that's one thing I, really look back and admire how he did that. So that's one of many.
Yeah. Barry and Katrina, they treated you basically like another son, didn't they? They really did. You were one of their family.
Yeah. They, couldn't thank Barry and Katrina enough. Even when I was there, little things around the house, because I was quite young, and I'd left home pretty early, and I'd only just started to learn cooking then. I wasn't very good back then, and they'd always invite you up. There was a beer after work and food on the table, and anything you needed around the place. They made sure you were looked after, and still to this day, they're still looking after me.
Yeah.
So yeah, love them.
All right, you put those colours on, it gives you confidence, doesn't it?
Lots of confidence, and even Barry's way of going about it. There's never any stress. I don't go out there feeling like if I come back in and I've made a mistake that it's going to be big trouble. He pat you on the back and say, don't worry about it. You'll learn from that. You'll get better from it. And he's always taking the time out of his day to help me. Barry's a great driver in his own right, and I'm a big believer in you've got to learn off everyone. So he always took the time out of his day to give me pointers, which I took in.
18 Group 1 wins thus far, and most of them are for him. Have you got a favourite? What's the number one?
Oh, I love Group 1s. I've got to start winning more of them.
There was a big day at Ashburton, which clearly stands out, and you had 2 Group 1 winners for Barry Purdon that day. Lance Wood Lizzie, who I distinctly remember because it was a piece of brilliance. You had Venus Serena.
Yeah.
You had an opportunity to leave her parked, but you let her go at the half mile over a mile.
Yeah.
Who does that?
I'm unorthodox. But then, again, learning off people, Dad probably taught me that way of driving, and I've always been big on it. A speed horse, you're not going to outstay a stayer, beat him for speed. So that's the theory I went with, and I was lucky enough that it worked. But now you bring that up, probably I think just getting that job done, winning those 3 with Sky Major, getting that last one up.
Well, it's history making, Zach. Nobody's ever done it before, and no one will ever do it because we don't have the jewels anymore.
Yeah.
So, did you feel the pressure that day?
Lots, yeah. I did. Did a lot of form and a lot of study on it. I know you probably look at it. You don't have to do that much. So good horses, everyone knows how they go. You generally know where you're going to be. But I wanted to make sure I was spot on with what I was thinking, and you still got to have those luck in those races. I think Sky Major, there was a little bit of chaos early and we had to get round that, and it all worked out in the end. But I remember going past the line and just, got it done. So
I remember the embrace from Barry though, and what it meant to 2 men who'd worked so hard to, create this. And I know Tony drove the horse to win its first jewels at Ashburton, and you grabbed the other 2, but it was quite special to see what it actually meant to you guys. And it's a real team effort. Scotty's there, Whippet's there. You guys. There's just a real bond, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's one thing I loved about Barry's was the work team was always good friends. You had your blow-ups and that, but he always created a good culture to work around, and you're all striving for one thing, and that's winning Group 1s and having the best out of your horses. So yeah, a couple of times I give Barry a big hug, and it was cool. It was really cool to have that relationship with Barry. he's had a lot of guys drive for him and a lot of friendships over the years and very good drivers. So to be able to be a part of, you know, that category or, you know, those group of guys, that's pretty special.
Some of those other special horses that you've driven for Barry, Bella Montana and a win in the Neville and a win on Jules Day, on the wettest day you've probably ever driven at, particularly at Addington Raceway, by the barest of margins and beating brother Mark or Barry's brother Mark and Natalie. That took some skill, that drive as well.
Yeah, lucky I had Belle. She's probably one of my favourite horses. Just her demeanour and her attitude, and just an absolute sweetheart to drive. So I really fell in love with her, and she did a great job. And then I think she won about
6 or 7 Group 1s, including a couple in Australia. She got a Vic Oaks, I think, and a ladyship. She just did an incredible job. Her versatility and her speed, you just don't often get that combination, do you?
Nah, well, and the first day I experienced that was when we beat Wainui Creek. You know, when I pulled out at the top of the straight and got a bit of clear air, I thought there was no chance we were running her down, and she did. So, she's a special horse, and Barry did a great job with her.
All right, who's the toughest opponents? We've talked about your dad. Clearly he's in that category. Who do you go out on the track and go, right, I know I'm going to have my A game on here?
Well,
there's a few.
There's a few. One that always sticks out in my mind because there's that many stories to tell about him. And this is outside of obviously Dad and the Butcher family, but the Iceman, Tony Hurley, the amount of times he has beaten me just through sheer out driving me, it kills me. It kills me every day. Eh? I'll look across at him and I'll say, "Yep, you got me again." And he's like, "I always get you," you know. But he always has my measure.
Yeah. What about down south when you go down there and hey, there's so many great drivers in the north as well, but when you go down there, there's no inches given there, is there?
Nah, 100%. I think Johnny, he's one of the best down there. Yeah, he does things out of the ordinary, which I think it's a big thing. Dad sort of learnt that through Anthony, but you got to be unpredictable, especially in big races. You know, do something they don't think you're going to do, and it can win or lose your race. You know, and if it can win it, if you're not as much of a chance, but you do something out of the ordinary, why not have a crack? You know.
The opportunity to train some horses. Now you left Barry's and you went to Lincoln Farms, and with that came an opportunity to train. Was that something you always thought you'd want to do?
Not really, not to start off with, but like you said, we got to Lincoln Farms and John said you're allowed a horse and work here, so I thought, well, why not, you know? A little bit of an interest outside of the driving, something different, a new challenge. So sort of got into that, and I'm enjoying it more and more each day now. And
your first training success didn't take too long, did it?
No, I was blessed actually to get that horse. Zeus, at the time Bob McCardle had just passed away, and they were just cleaning up a few things with the horses that they had, and Jeff actually trained the mother of Zeus, Zeta, I think her name was.
Right. Yep.
She was a really nice mare. I think Shane won one on her, Dad won, I won on her, Phil won on her. So, you know, I think she won about 6 or 7. We liked her, but Zeus, he was knee-high to a grasshopper, and looking at him in the box, you wouldn't want him, but I tell you what, he had a big heart, and he was a really cool horse to train. Yeah,
and he's done an incredible job. He's still racing. He raced in the Len Smith the other night, actually, and he's won nearly $500,000, Zeus Bromack.
Yeah.
So, fast, eh?
Yeah, fast, and well, for how big he is, he's got to have fast little legs because he wouldn't cover much ground otherwise.
No. Was that also, I suppose, an inspiration to carry on in that regard, because you were able to sell one and you're able to do well out of it, and therefore, I suppose, to some extent, reinvest?
Yeah, big time. There's a photo up there of actually Zeus helped us get into this house, so that was pretty good for him.
Now, you own Zeus Bromack with?
Dad and Lynette Philpott, and I also think Lisa was in it too, Bob's daughter.
Yes.
So
it
was a cool little thing because Dad's always been good friends with Bob and Lisa.
I can remember Bob picking him up.
All the time,
over and over again. Yeah.
Always late. Always late. So that was really cool to have that with them, and I've kept my relationship going with Lynette and Lisa, which has been pretty awesome too. We've got another one going around now, so it's all exciting stuff, isn't it?
The most successful horse you've had has been a trotter. Call Me Trouble.
Yeah.
Talk about trouble. You had some interesting times with him. Tell me about that.
Trotters, eh?
Yeah. Why would you?
Everyone asks me, oh, your favourite paces or trotters? Paces all the time. Throw a set of hobbles on, they pace, it's easy. The talent of training a trotter, you've got to be very patient, and my patience is probably not as good as what it should be a lot of the time. But he was a really cool horse. He had a lot of speed and a lot of ability, so I had trouble getting them trot all the way sometimes.
He's well named.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun though. I think
he's still winning. He's still in Brisbane.
Yeah, doing a good job. He just had a mark over here where he was racing very nice horses that were just a little bit better than him. So I'm a big believer in you got to turn him over and get something else into the barn that you can win races with, rather than holding on to that hope of winning more.
Yep. And what about Zarias, who you race with your nan, Colleen?
Yeah.
Yeah. How cool.
That was special. He was a cool horse. He come out of nowhere. You've probably heard the story, but Dad tells everyone that he gave him to me and I never give him back. Don't believe the lies. Don't believe the lies. I reckon Dad said he's a little bit of a handful. You take him, you keep him.
Yeah.
I don't want him back.
Like that.
Right. It's along those lines. So anyway, every time I'd send him back for a spell in between work, probably 2 months, you can take that horse back. He's ruining me paddocks. He's broken me troughs and whatnot. But he was a character. He won 6 races. He was great for Monty too, who was Shane's partner. She'd helped me out a wee bit. And
yeah, she drove him to win.
Yep. 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. Yeah.
So it was a real sort of family affair, and Lev got Nan back to the races again. She goes most weeks now, which is really cool. Gets her out of the house and keeps her interested.
She's only about 67 although something.
No, 100%. Yeah. People tell her, how old are you? She said 87. They said, you're getting old. She said, no, I'm not. And you've got to be young at mind, and I think Nan is. So she's got a few more good years left in her.
What about the future of training? Is it something that's in the Zachary Butcher, I suppose, plan? Or are you happy just to keep on driving? And hey, one of your great mates, Dexter Dunn, who you drove against and finished second in a premiership that year, you jumped up on the sulky. I wasn't going to bring it up again, but you finished second to him with about 112 odd wins, 114. Yep. Trying your trade overseas, is that ever reared its head? Or are you a homebody and you think, right, I'm going to keep doing the best I can driving-wise, but I'm going to do a bit more training?
Yeah, funny you say that. We went over and saw Dex not long ago for Hambo Day and met a few trainers and a few other drivers over there. Great people, Had a real good time at the barbecue, a couple of beers, and they almost talked me into going over.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to do it for 6 months, don't get me wrong, but I went for a month and I come back and, you've quickly forgotten about this.
Behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that can do the job just as good as you. So it's probably, if you're going, you've got to give it a good crack, and if you're giving it a good crack, you're looking more for the future. So I did think about it, but I'm a family man, I'm a home boy. I love my family. I like New Zealand. They say the grass is always greener on the other side, and I've been pretty lucky around here, so it'd probably be silly to leave that.
Yeah, you've been getting on a plane a fair bit lately, not only for that trip, but you've been getting down to Christchurch. I'm picking it's not just for the driving, so this could be one of the great unions of harness racing. There's a young lady, Del Getty, who you've been seeing, yeah. Laura, and the Butcher family. Are you going for the super harness human being or something? Maybe the Steffi Graf. Who did she marry? Andre Agassi?
Yeah. Well, put it this way, I'll be letting the power couple down. She's up here. I'm a little chippy, but no, she's lovely. I was very lucky to meet Laura, run into her at the right time, and we've had a lot of fun the last year and a half, and a lot of travelling. Got the old miles up now, which is
Golden Elite, mate.
Yeah, living the dream, mate, living the high life. But no, it's good. I've actually enjoyed going down south. It's a good culture down there with racing. More so up north, we go to the races and we pretty much head home after. It's not as social as what it used to be. Where down there you still have that kind of family environment where everyone's at the races, everyone gets along, everyone has a beer after together, that's been pretty cool to be a part of, and broaden your relationships with people around racing, and that only helps you driving too. So I'll be down there more again. So hopefully. Well, Laura said she's going to move up. She's a dead set Cantab through and through.
Yeah.
So moving date's 1st of October. I'll keep you posted if she makes it or not.
Beautiful. Hey, thanks for taking the time out and having a chat to us. It's always great to get an insight into why you got involved and how successful you've also been. But what about this New Zealand Cup, this Old Town Road? You was pretty good around cup time last year. He's definitely a better horse now. Can he win it?
I'm going to say yes. John's happy. He's had a year under him now. Never go into a cup and don't think you have a chance. If you're in it, you've got a chance. So I've got to go in confident, and I can't see why not.